I had a new client say to me recently, Bria, I'm eating cleaner than I ever have before. I'm working out 4 days a week, and somehow I weigh more than I did 5 years ago. And honestly, this is one of the most common conversations I've had with women in their 40s and 50s for decades. And it was an issue that I ran into at 37. I was working out 6 days a week like I had been for 10 years straight, but I gained like 15, 20 pounds very quickly, and it didn't make any sense, right? Hey there, I'm Bria, and welcome to the Period Whisperer podcast. If you're over 35 and ready for real answers about your hormones, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and stay with us. How have you been feeling in your body lately? Have you been feeling just frustrated, like nothing is making sense? I'm very excited to announce a new little mini series. But first, if you've been with me for a while, I am testing out for the first time at 44 my own hormone replacement therapy. So this is the first time I've had to be on hormones. My hormones have dipped low enough for me to test it out. I was starting to notice that everyone was annoying me and more than half the month. And I was starting to struggle with sleep. And I thought, ooh, it's time to test. So I tested out my hormones. Sure enough, that's what I was seeing. And so I'm not going to say too much now because I want to give it a month or two. And I will in the future be telling you about how it's going for me. But as I said, today's episode is going to kick off something we're doing this month. For the entire month of April, I'm going to launch a 4-part series called What the Hell is Happening in My Body? The Midlife Reality Series. Because we have over 400 episodes here. If you are new to the show, I want to give you some really good stuff right away. And if you've been around for a while, I want to recap some things for you, especially if you've been feeling stuck or frustrated. Because if you're in your 40s or 50s, chances are you have had at least one moment where you thought, what the hell is going on with me? You're doing all the things that used to work, you're eating well, you're working out, you're trying to take care of yourself, and yet somehow your body feels like it has completely changed the rules of the game. So for the next 4 weeks, we're going to break down some of the biggest midlife mysteries women are experiencing right now. Each episode is going to tackle a symptom that women constantly tell me about in my coaching practice. This month, we're going to talk about why weight gain suddenly happens when nothing changes, why your workouts stop working, the real conversation around hormone therapy, and why your brain suddenly feels foggy or flat. And of course, I'm going to give you some clear tips at the end of each one on what you can start to do about it. Each episode is going to reveal another layer of the puzzle so you can start understanding what your body is actually asking for. Because here is the truth, and you're going to hear me say this again and again if we hang out a lot here on the podcast. Your body is not broken. In midlife, it's evolving. It is a gift this time. I know you didn't want it, but it's coming for you. But it's here for a reason to, I think, shake you down to a place where you're like, oh, I finally have to address the things that I have been avoiding. And it's going to point it out to you really uncomfortably so that you change. We don't have the rose-colored glasses of estrogen at full force anymore, kind of smoothing those rough edges. And that might feel frustrating, but I actually think it is a great gift so that you can spend the next 3-4 decades feeling the best you've ever felt without being hormonally hijacked every single month. The strategies that worked in your 20s and 30s often stop working the same way. And we're going to talk about that and why that is happening. So today we're going to talk about one of the biggest frustrations women bring to me on the regular, which is, why am I gaining weight when I am doing everything right? Or why am I doing more than I used to and my weight is still totally stuck? I had a new client say to me recently, Bria, I'm eating cleaner than I ever have before. I'm working out 4 days a week, and somehow I weigh more than I did 5 years ago. And honestly, this is one of the most common conversations I've had with women in their 40s and 50s for decades. And it was an issue that I ran into at 37. I was working out 6 days a week like I had been for 10 years straight. I was probably not eating the cleanest because I was starting to feel very stressed out, but I gained like 15, 20 pounds very quickly, and it didn't make any sense, right? These women, you, me, we're doing the right things. We're eating healthier. You're cutting calories. You're increasing your workouts. You're maybe cutting carbs, or maybe you're trying fasting. Maybe you're adding in more cardio. And yet your body composition changes. Fat seems to settle around your belly, and even your stretchiest pants start to feel a little tight. Energy drops where you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't even want to face this day. Workouts feel harder. Like during your workout, you're like, I don't feel as strong as I used to. I don't feel as energized by it. And of course, you get on the dreaded scale and it just completely derails your day because you're just frustrated with the efforts and you sort of feel like, F it. What is the point here? And maybe you slip. Maybe you say it doesn't really matter anymore. Maybe you start drinking wine every night like I did, more coffee in the afternoon like I did, all of these things. Here's the thing. You're not imagining it. Your body actually does change metabolically in midlife, but the reasons are often not the ones that we are talked about. I think we're hearing more and more about it. So I wanted to really summarize it for you and give you kind of the down and dirty so you're not searching through loads of content to get the answers. This is where the conversation gets interesting because most of the advice out there still really focuses on eat less and exercise more, or, you just need to take hormones or just take this peptide, which honestly are not the most effective strategies for a midlife metabolism. And it doesn't incorporate something that I like to call health debt. Health debt, just like financial debt, is really, but when we're going to use the currency of energy instead of money, is when the energy demand of your body starts to outweigh your energy supply. And that can happen for a multitude of reasons, but mainly you're going through life, you're juggling all the balls, you're probably just barely keeping it together, but you're like, I've got this, like you have been for 15 years now. And all of a sudden your hormones start getting bajiggity, and that variable adds a massive energy demand to your body and lowers the energy supply. There's our deficit. Also, if you have unaddressed issues in your body, like your gut is not breaking down things properly or not eliminating your hormones, maybe you've been dealing with a hormone imbalance for a long time. Maybe your adrenals have been taxed. Maybe your thyroid's not converting. Maybe your liver is congested a little. These are all the ways our body brings energy into it. So now we not only have this energy supply and demand deficit, but now it is even bigger because the supply chain pipeline, all of these areas, the gut, the adrenals, the thyroid, the liver, all of these areas that bring energy into the body, it's like there's a kink in the hose. And that's when things get really, really uncomfortable for us. That's when symptoms start showing up. And that's when we finally, as women, start paying attention because we get so uncomfortable. We're like, enough is enough, right? What the heck is going on in my body? So let's unpack what's really happening. Let's start with the midlife metabolism shift. One of the biggest shifts that happens in midlife is something called sarcopenia. That's the gradual loss of muscle mass that begins as early as your late 30s. Most women lose somewhere around 3 to 8% of muscle per decade if they aren't actively working to maintain it. And muscle matters more than most people realize. It's your body's metabolic engine. It helps regulate your blood sugar, your insulin sensitivity, your fat metabolism, your energy production. When muscle declines, metabolism naturally slows. But that's only one piece, right? The other piece is estrogen. Estrogen actually plays a big role in how women store fat. When estrogen starts fluctuating during perimenopause, fat storage patterns shifts. And this is why many women notice more abdominal fat, even when their weight hasn't changed much. They're like, I don't understand. My weight's the same, but my pants aren't fitting. And there's another layer people don't talk about enough. Estrogen and progesterone really impact and regulate insulin sensitivity. So when estrogen becomes more volatile, going up and down in perimenopause, and progesterone drops, blood sugar regulation can become a little less efficient, which means that the body becomes more likely to store energy as fat. So suddenly the exact same habits that worked in your 30s may not be producing the same result. And then most of us, myself included, respond by doing what they've always been told to do. We push harder. because we're determined, ladies. And I am very grateful that we have that determination and that focus, but it's missing a big chunk of the puzzle. And I'm going to talk about that chunk of the puzzle in your tips. This brings us to the second trap, the cortisol belly trap. One of the biggest mistakes women make in midlife, of course, is doubling down on these stress-based strategies. I was probably like number one of doing this. So when my body started to revolt, it felt like I set my alarm earlier. I was waking up at 4:30 a.m. I was having 2 times the pre-workout, which is a hell of a lot of caffeine. I was pushing through an even harder, longer workout than I had before. I was cutting back on my calories, trying to figure out what was going on, and everything just spiraled into a deep, dark mess, right? When we double down on stress-based strategies, we eat less, we do more cardio, we increase high-intensity workouts, we push through exhaustion. This is, I think, because this is what we did in the past and it works like a charm. I hear from so many people like, I would do this for a week and drop 5 pounds on the scale. But that's just not what works anymore for all of these reasons we're talking about, but also because your life is different now in your 40s and 50s, right? Midlife is often a time when stress is already high, when you are juggling careers, teenagers, aging parents, relationship challenges, financial pressures. And when you layer in these extra stress activities like eating less or excessively training, the body starts to shift into a more stressed metabolic state. And this is when cortisol becomes chronically elevated. And that's when your body is more likely to store fat, hold on to abdominal fat, slow metabolic output. Because listen, your body is beautifully designed to survive. If it is stressed, stress is the biggest energy suck ever in the body. And it's scary. So the brain is like, gosh, I have no idea when things are going to calm down. I better start slowing down output and stacking up storage because cortisol, constant cortisol really jacks up the need for energy in the body. This is also where a lot of food noise comes for women. Unless it's coming from an eating disorder or mental health issues, a lot of the times food noise is coming from a chronically stressed body that with a brain that is constantly looking for energy to supply the demand that it can't keep up with. When you are just pushing yourself harder when the body is trying to survive, you're making it harder on your body to survive. You're actually perpetuating the problem. It's like being on a deserted island and deciding to go for a jog on the beach when you have no idea what's out there that's going to try to eat you and where you're going to get food and water from. It just doesn't make sense. This is something I constantly see in lab testing as well, right? Women who are having sleep that is suffering, right? Doing too many workouts, eating very low calorie diets, or frankly, just not enough of any of the macros. If you're not eating enough fats for your body, if you're not eating enough protein for your body, if you're not eating enough carbohydrates for your body, any of these is going to add more stress to that body. And your body isn't going to feel very safe to release its stored energy because it's trying to survive. This is the part that I think really surprises women. Sometimes the reason weight loss stalls in midlife is not because the body needs more discipline. It's because the body needs more support. I'm sorry to tell you, and I think this is a hard pill to swallow for so many women. There's a reason you're in the position that you are in, and it's likely because of everything you have done and everything you have tried to accomplish and everything you have overcompensated for maybe and the other people in your life, doing more than you needed to, doing more than you should, especially if you have an unequal partnership. And you can't keep that up forever. Your body's like, no, I did it your way for 4 decades and it got us here. So I'm going to put the brakes on and we're going to do it my way. This leads us to the third piece of the puzzle, the gut microbiome shift. Your gut microbiome changes in perimenopause, and this matters a lot more than most women realize, right? Your gut is critical to your hormones for 2 reasons. One, it's responsible for the breaking down and absorbing of the nutrients needed to make your hormones, to fuel your whole body. And it's also critical for the methylation and excretion of the toxins and used hormones and everything else in your body. If those things are not happening properly, that causes problems, adds more demand, stresses the body out further. Estrogen and the gut are deeply connected through something called the estrobilome. Estrobilome? Wow, I said that really badly. Estrobilome, which is the collection of bacteria in the gut that help metabolize and recycle your estrogen. When estrogen begins fluctuating in perimenopause, it can actually change the composition of the microbiome. Some bacteria decline, some become more dominant. It is very often that I see women who don't have any notable gut health issues. And when we get into their gut lab or their GI map, we see basically a desert in there, right? We need soil. We need our gut to be like a very fertile garden. And if it's completely depleted because of long-term chronic stress, then not much is going on and you can't grow a whole lot of energy in that desert. Likewise, if you have gut health issues, you might start to notice more bloating, more fermentation after meals, hello, gas, especially if it grows throughout the day. Maybe you wake up and you're okay, but by after dinner, you're like, oh my gosh, where is all this gas coming from? A notable killer of the libido for sure. Maybe you notice more food sensitivities, more constipation or sluggish digestion, and sometimes stubborn weight gain. What's really fascinating is that research is starting to show that certain gut bacteria are directly involved in metabolic regulation and fat storage. So I can actually see in a GI map in your stool if your gut is part of the reason you can't lose weight. It's fascinating. And also, if that is what's happening, how to correct it specific to you. Right? When the gut microbiome becomes less diverse or more inflammatory, the body becomes more likely to extract more calories from food, store fat more easily, and experience more inflammation, which causes more insulin resistance, which stresses the body out further and perpetuates this problem of fat storage needed in the body. This can make weight loss feel like almost impossible, even when you're eating well. And this is something I see constantly in functional lab testing. Women saying, nothing changed with my diet, but suddenly my digestion is weird and I'm gaining weight. And when we run that stool test, we often see shifts in the gut microbiome that correlate exactly with these symptoms. So sometimes the issues isn't calories or workouts at all. Sometimes the body is dealing with a microbiome that needs support. And when we start restoring gut diversity and improving digestion, the body often becomes much more metabolically responsive again. So as you can see, it's not necessarily from your effort, it's a correction that might need to happen inside of you. And finally, I think one of the biggest issues is mineral depletion. This is the layer that I think doesn't get talked about enough. We talk about magnesium for sure. I think we're starting to hear more about electrolytes, but there are so many trace minerals that we are not getting through our over-farmed soil and our over-cleaned water because it's been polluted, that we aren't getting in the body that are required for mineral absorption, mineral balance. Midlife women are often incredibly depleted in magnesium, potassium, sodium, zinc, as well as like key trace minerals that are critical for metabolic function, right? So we've got your selenium with your thyroid. We have manganese, which can play a big role in keeping our brain fog away. These trace minerals help regulate thyroid function, adrenal health, cellular energy production, blood sugar regulation, and hydration inside the cells. So the challenge is that many women are walking around mildly dehydrated and mineral depleted without even realizing it. If you're drinking loads of water and peeing so much, like peeing every hour, you're not getting those minerals, right? There's no minerals in your actual water. We need to add minerals to the water. Stress burns through minerals, poor sleep burns through minerals, heavy exercise burns through minerals. Even drinking lots of plain water without electrolytes, again, can actually dilute your minerals further because we're not absorbing them. They're just flushing through the body. And of course, when the body becomes depleted, what do we start to see? Fatigue, cravings, poor recovery from workouts, stubborn weight loss resistance, which is what we're talking about here today. sometimes the missing piece isn't about a new diet, it's about restoring the raw materials that your body needs to function. Whew, four big things there. If you're feeling frustrated with your body right now, I want you to remember this. We don't fix midlife metabolism by punishing our bodies. We fix it by supporting them. And a reminder, your body is not a vending machine. It doesn't happen overnight. But when you support yourself, when you start to take a step back and think, how can I look more deeply at gut health, stress physiology, mineral balance, hormone shifts? Things can look up within 3 to 6 months. You can feel like an entirely different person. So now that we know kind of some of the big things that are happening that keep our weight stuck, even if you're eating really well, I want to share 3 tips that I really think make a big impact for most people. Okay. Number 1, if you are an avid fitness person, do not throw tomatoes at me, but I really recommend that you take a 2 to 4 week workout break. We're still going to walk. You can still hit the mat and do some yoga, or maybe try just a fun little class here and there that you haven't tried. But I want you to take a break from the regular routine that you've gone, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your metabolism is pause the stressors, even if it's supposed to be a really good stressor. If you've been pushing hard with your workouts and your body feels stuck, consider taking this time off and focus on nourishing your body with real food, on getting in enough protein, on supporting blood sugar, on just walking daily, the foundations of health that will ensure we have a strong body still to build muscle onto. Many women are really shocked at how much better their body responds after giving it a short recovery window. And what I think is so fascinating is when my clients do this, I think it can feel stressful, but all of a sudden they have more energy to focus on food. And when we're working out, we have to eat more. And that means your body has to do more. So if we can pull back on the workouts, sometimes we can take a little less food into the body and give it a bit of a break to catch up properly. And this is where it's amazing to see some women actually lose weight, bloating goes away, energy in the afternoon picks up. And that's a good indicator that you needed this type of break. Number 2 tip for you is to rebuild your mineral stores. This is honestly one of the fastest ways to start feeling better. Prioritize your hydration and minerals. Personally, I'm sure you've heard me say it. Unless you're new to the podcast, I'm a huge fan of Beam minerals because they make it really easy to replenish what stress and modern life tend to drain, right? It's just all of the humic and fulvic minerals that your body isn't going to get in the water and soil that it should. This isn't your additional magnesium. This isn't your iron if you're iron deficient, or your vitamin D. These are the trace minerals that we have to have in place in order to absorb those things. Think about adding minerals to your water, prioritizing hydration, giving yourself permission for some real downtime, guilt-free. Read a book, relax, take a break. Guilt-free. Think of it as your winter, as your downtime, as a little bit of hibernation time for 2 to 4 weeks. Your nervous system and your metabolism will thank you. And I can almost guarantee that you will thank me for that you will be like, oh my gosh, the scale didn't go anywhere. I didn't die. And I actually have so much more energy. My joints don't hurt. Sometimes we just need that break. And number 3, I really strongly recommend considering testing in some way. If you're feeling stuck, this is where testing becomes incredibly helpful, because guessing can only get us so far, right? Testing can help you see what your hormones are actually doing, how your cortisol rhythm looks, like where we can specifically support it, whether your gut microbiome needs support, and whether it might be time to consider hormone therapy. For so many women, myself included, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy can be a very helpful tool to use when appropriate and safe. But the key is that you need to get the data. I feel very strongly that we need to know that your detoxification, your metabolization of these hormones, that these pathways are clear so that you can get the beautiful benefit of these hormones. I also find testing does 2 other key things. 1, it quiets the noise. There's so much noise out there about what should we do? And should I try this? And what about this? And what about that? It allows you to have a very direct path to what your body needs, which is going to be different than even your sister and certainly your friends. And it also, I find, helps us be super compliant. When you invest in it, you've spent money on it, but at the same time, you can't deny what your body is saying to you. So you kind of resolve yourself and surrender to be like, okay, this is what I need to do. And it's easier to stick to your plan longer to make a comeback from these things. The key is making sure, again, that you are getting the right lab work. I'm a huge fan, again, of Dutch, of a GI map, and that you have the right person to read it for you, even if it's not me. We need to consider nutrition and holistic options first before a whole pile of supplements. And supplements won't work in a body that doesn't have health foundations. We need to consider what all of your symptoms are going on to kind of correlate what might be causing those things. So you want to make sure you have someone that's really considering the whole picture and not just sending you a summary of your lab. Again, whether that's me or someone else, I just want you to get the help that you need. Okay, sisters. So I hope that gave you a good down and dirty understanding of why you're doing all the things, but the weight is not changing or going in the wrong direction. Next week in this series, we're going to talk about something that frustrates a lot of women, why the workouts that used to work suddenly stopped working in perimenopause. We're going to break down the cardio trap. We're going to break down why muscle becomes your metabolic currency, how to actually train for your midlife hormones. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you come back, leave a review if you love this, share with a friend, and don't miss out on that episode because I think because my background is in fitness, I connect with a lot of women who have been working out forever and they're just pushing it in the gym and feeling worse. And I don't want that for you. I want you to do the workouts that feel good for you. I want you to get the results from them. And I know that I'm going to walk you through that in the next episode. So again, if this episode resonated with you, I would love it if you share it with a friend who might be feeling the same way. And if you're ready to start addressing the root cause of your issues, please, you can learn more about working with me at briatheperiodwhisperer.com. You can scroll down into the show notes here. You can book a call. And until next time, remember, your body isn't broken. It's communicating, first through whispers and then through screams. When we start listening, everything can finally change. So go out, be more in your life and not just less on a scale. And I will catch you in the next episode. If you're 35 plus and ready to stop guessing, start understanding your hormones and feel your absolute best, hit subscribe. That's what we do here.